Kevin, we are live right after Money in the Bank 2021. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, Doug. We might want to warn the affiliates we're going late tonight.
We are indeed going late tonight, and I believe that me and Peacock have the same tech support.
Folks, if you watched Money in the Bank, please comment and let us know what you think as we go through these matches. If you're watching us on delay, and good for you, you're getting some sleep. But if you're watching just to see whether or not you should tune in, we're going to do some non-spoiler things first. But spoiler, Peacock had some tech issues tonight, as Doug alluded to, and that really was unfortunately an overriding story for a lot of folks. And it, unfortunately, Doug, it also hit during what arguably was the better half of the pay-per-view. So that made it even worse.
Indeed, it did. Yeah. Once again, I've had problems with Peacock.
Yeah, Doug texts and he's like, he tell me he's having these problems, and I'm letting him know Twitter is a fire. He was not alone tonight. The feed was choppy for everyone around the 2 hour mark. And unfortunately, it marred a bit of the one of the night's better matches. Doug, overall, for me, sort of tell it to pay-per-views for those who don't want spoilers and want to cut out before we start talking winners and losers. I think that it was an entertaining event from start to finish, but if you only had so much time, since this was a long pay-per-view, definitely the back end of the pay-per-view, for me at least, contained the best matches and the overall storylines that people are going to be talking about. You could probably tune in about 90 minutes into the show and see all you really need to see.
Agreed. Agreed.
And well, let's talk some generalities. First pay-per-view with fans touring, again. So that means several things. It meant, Doug, that for a lot of these folks performing tonight, they were actually doing so for the first time, either in their new characters or just in general in front of the audience. You got folks like Dominic and Omos, who have not done the touring thing yet, and outside of WrestleMania haven't been in front of an audience yet. Dominic hadn't even gotten really that. You have the Tribal Chief character and the Fiend Alexa character on tour for the first time. So you're going to get reactions and not those scripted, piped in things. And as we go through our card tonight, we're going to point out a few of those that probably went a little different than WWE had thought they would probably go, and that's something they're going to have to look at going forward. For 70 weeks, they haven't had to worry about how the crowd would respond, because the crowd was always going to respond exactly as they had them to. So that, to me, was really a throughput of this. That, and the fact that first pay-per-view for us Fire TV users that we were actually able to watch on something other than laptops, phones, or finding some alternate means. So kudos at least for that, Doug, right?
While it worked anyway. I mean,
yeah, it's a good thing that they did have fans. At least the people in person got to see the men's ladder match. Those of us,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Let's get into the pre-show, Doug. Did you see the pre-show?
Of course I didn't. Yeah, I'm Mr. No pre-show at this point.
I'll give a recap of the pre-show then. The pre-show, WWE is doing a whole lot better. This is when we're getting to the spoilers, folks. So leave us your comments if you watched comment along with us. Pre-show, when do you ever see a title change on the pre-show? WWE has gotten much better in the last 5-6 months with having meaningful pre-show matches. Also, how often during a pre-show match do you get a "This is awesome" chant? And it was deserved. This was the Usos going up against the Mysterios. Twin brothers against father and son. Father and sons are the champs. Father and son lose those titles. So now it really plays into the storyline for the Usos and their cousin Roman Reigns holding all the major belts over there on SmackDown. There was this cool new entrance that the Mysterios had. Dom did a great double springboard moonsault that he likes to throw in. Of course, now he's doing it in front of audiences and getting that pop, which has to feel great. Hot crowd, and it wasn't just people happy to see live wrestling again. This is awesome chant was legitimately earned, and a title change on a pre-show. So that was actually kind of exciting. Probably could have used a little more time to be a 4-star classic, but definitely a very solid match worth going out of your way to check out.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, I didn't realize this was going to be on the pre-show. I should have known because I'm always confused if these things start at 7 or 8. And yeah, I actually went through the motions, got Peacock loaded up on my Fire Stick, was ready to rock and roll, and then got lost doing other things and rolled in at 8 o'clock to realize once again I'd missed the pre-show.
And the pre-show tag team match of the SmackDown Tag Team Championship was a much better match than the actual pay-per-view that had the Raw Tag Team Championship that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So the better of the tag team contest was for certain the pre-show. But let's get into the main event, Doug, or not the main event itself, but the main pay-per-view, since
Let's do it.
this is where you pick things up. We kick things off with a women's Money in the Bank ladder match. You have Asuka, Nikki, Natalia, Tamina, Alexa, Zelina, and Naomi. And your winner of this contest, Nikki Cross. Doug, what do you think of this one?
Man, this was a good enough opening match. These girls, did the work. I'll say that. And the crowd was hot because, God, I think WWE has really needed crowds for a while, and I think it just enhanced the product so much overall. I really question what the hell kind of decision this is, giving Nikki Cross. Nothing against Nikki Cross, but when you say Nikki Cross to me, I am not thinking championship material. I'm not thinking main eventer. I'm not thinking someone that can carry a division like a Sasha Banks, a Bayley, a Charlotte, a Becky. So especially with this recycled Hurricane character that she has, almost a superhero. I don't know what's going on here. I don't like it.
For me, I thought that this is where the crowd reactions, as you said, enhance things, but also should show WWE a few things as well that maybe they weren't counting on. The crowd was very hot all night long, or all match long, for Alexa Bliss.
Yes.
And Fiend Alexa is an act that I'm kind of like ready for her to get back to being who she, has been. And at the same time, though, we have the crowd booing all the other women in the match when they stack the ladders on top of her because they are into her. And maybe that might change some writing and direction, because I don't believe that that's what WWE intended. I could do all without the hocus pocus bit of her, like,
Stupid.
Yeah, dumb stuff. Don't like that. I will say the first real physical feat of the night had to be Little Miss Bliss in her entrance and standing on the ring ropes for like the entire time that everyone else made their entrance, not on the turnbuckle, on the actual ropes. I'm thinking that's actually a pretty good core strength you got going on there. I want to see her get back to who she was. I like Nikki Cross also. I want to see her get back to who she was. Yeah, it's a Mighty Molly gimmick. I mean, I know this was, I think, Doug, when you were having some technical problems on your end during our preview of this, I mentioned the same thing that you just mentioned, that not that crazy about the gimmick. And but David Poole, you are correct, my brother. You did call it. I think I called this one for Liv, but I also said in the preview that if it wasn't Liv, who I wanted to see, I do believe that it was going to be Nikki, just because the McMahons seem really behind this new makeover, Mighty Molly Part 2, as it were.
I guess, man. I know that the crowd was pretty hot for Liv too. So
yes, they were, and there was even a few "You deserve it" chants at times when she was getting close. So again, folks in the back, listen to the fans. You got reactions now. You have live focus groups again, something you've not had for a year and a half. And they're telling you who they want to see. And so hopefully Liv didn't get this hope spot where you make her think that she, has a chance, and then you write her off TV for the next couple of months. So hopefully they keep some momentum behind her. Dave, it wouldn't surprise me if they go that route, because they definitely, during the match, they did have a tease where they played on the back history that yeah, they played on the back history that Bliss and Cross have with one another. So they both, obviously the next year at least is going to be Nikki around the female title scene, but you can't keep her there in the main event picture all year long. So you're going to have to just tease it and then have her something else to do. Wouldn't surprise me if they go something along those lines.
Something stupid like that.
And, you said it. The women worked hard. I did think, though, in general, that this match paled in comparison to the other ladder match we're going to talk about a little later on.
For what I saw of it, yeah.
Let's move on to the Raw Tag Team Championship match, where you have Omos and AJ, your champs, successfully defending against the War Raiders, because I just do not like calling them the Viking Raiders, but or War Machine. That's War Machine.
Even War Raiders is better. War Machine it's great to see War Machine doing their thing. It's great to see AJ doing his thing. And then there's this other dude who I think could probably have a better character than the big guy. Look, he's a big guy. Yeah,
does he have a character?
I saw a little bit of personality tonight. I don't think I've ever seen in him before. And I'm thinking there's a way you could run with this, like the big man, kind of like the thug, the cocky thug, not ahead of the table kind of gimmick. But there could be more than just the big guy there. I mean, he still needs somebody like AJ to help him out a lot, and the Viking experience of raiding machines or whatever they're called now, War Machine did their part great tonight.
It was a come down match after the frantic opener. I didn't hate it. It was not as good as the pre-show tag match that they had the championships for on SmackDown side of things, but Omos is still green, and definitely needs AJ still. However, like you, I'm seeing hints of okay, he's still green, but he's improving. He's definitely improving. Omos a superhero.
You're killing me, Dave. You're killing me.
I will say the assisted spot where he helped AJ over the top rope into the Hurricanrana, we all know it was mostly AJ doing that and a big man just standing there being big, but it still looked pretty cool. So, hopefully Omos is learning a lot during this. AJ, of course, being AJ, starts bumping around like, HBK circa 1995, 96. And so it made the whole thing a lot better than it had any right to be. Hopefully Omos keeps improving. And other than that, not really eventful, but not awful either.
Yep. I'm pretty neutral about this. I mean, I think the crowd was really making the first part of this pay-per-view. Just being in front of a live crowd again, I realized how much I've missed that with WWE. I just have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely, there's some goodwill they bought tonight from critics like ourselves and folks that are here to review the product, because we're so happy to see that missing element back, and the people that are there are so happy to be there that I think that all of us, including those in attendance, probably are being a little more kind and giving a little more benefit of the doubt, just because it feels so good for all involved. We're in a little bit of a honeymoon period now. Let's see how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Next contest, Doug. The placement of this one early on should have told us exactly how this one was going to go. Surprise, folks, if you didn't watch our preview show, but we called this one pretty much correctly in that there will be no Kofi Mania Part 2, as Kofi Kingston fell tonight to WWE Champion Lashley in what was essentially, Doug, a squash match.
This was one of those things where everybody played their role well. Kofi did what Kofi was assigned to do. It all built up, through, I think you were talking about this on our show the other night, about how Lashley kind of snaps and has that character change about this isn't working, that's not working. It's time to get serious. I'm not soft. And this was the end game for that particular angle of Bobby Lashley, to put him over as walking Armageddon, the almighty Bobby Lashley. That's what we're going to start seeing now, finally.
That's what I had in my notes, in fact, is that, what maybe wasn't great for the quality, the star rating of a match was great storytelling, and that this was put on the card in the spot it was put on to make Bobby Lashley look like a monster to build him further. And Kofi, unfortunately for him, has been in this spot before. It wasn't as bad as the infamous squash he had to Lesnar after the original world title run that he had, but it was pretty close to being a very similar thing in that I am here to make everybody else look like a monster.
Yep.
And this is another, again, focus group test that WWE in this instance had to be happy for, because we have not seen a world champion main event level Lashley in front of a touring crowd until, where we're at right now. And they reacted exactly as you would hope. He got the reaction like he was a big deal and booed like you want your heel to be booed.
Yep.
The fans are still into Kofi big time, and so those reactions played exactly as I'm sure WWE would have scripted them. So that had to be encouraging for them. But a little foreshadowing there at the very end of the match, I thought too, when you have Johnny Smith, who had a very good night on the mic, by the way. Another first is we had him and Pat McAfee on the other side of Raw SmackDown divide. Both men having their first time live in front of crowds on a pay-per-view. They both did excellent. But Jimmy asked the question of, who can possibly stop this man? To which Corey Graves answers, and I wrote this down to make sure I remember it, not a man walking the earth. Well, I'm thinking maybe not a man, but a beast?
Yep.
Corey Graves, obviously excellent at what he does, and the seed was planted. You didn't get that return tonight like we thought might happen, but of course that's been the rumors as we're going towards SummerSlam. And if this doesn't at least set the table for that to occur, I can't imagine where else they're going to go with this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, it's time for the Beast to come back for SummerSlam. God, I hope it's the Beast. I don't want to see Goldberg. I don't want to see that.
Let's hope not.
Okay, insert your superhero joke about Goldberg here now, Dave Pohl. But it is time for that Beast.
It is time.
But this it did what it needed to do as far as storytelling goes. Poor Kofi, but
Poor Kofi.
Kofi played his role well.
And the fans don't hold it against him. They love Kofi Kingston and appreciate the lifetime of work he's put in. And so next time they want to insert him in a similar role, the fans will get right back in behind him. I have no doubts.
Yep.
Next match, Doug, for me, this is when things really started to pick up. Probably my match of the night.
Me too.
Oh, my goodness. We got women's championship match here. Raw women's champ Rhea Ripley losing that title to the 16th time now, I believe, which ties her with her father, which is going to be surely a talking point moving forward, even though I didn't hear it mentioned tonight on commentary. They got to go there. But Charlotte Flair is your new world champion, as Doug and I called it. Doug, first of all, I'll just say this. We'll start from the beginning of the match. I do not like it when the champ does not come out last. So
I don't like that either. And for them to call it out and say that Rhea Ripley was exercising her champion's prerogative or whatever to come out first.
Yeah.
No.
No, champs come out last. And maybe that's just the old grumpy men.
Right.
That too late on a work night.
Exactly.
Back in my day, Ric Flair, it didn't matter that he was Ric Flair. If he was the champ, he's coming out last. If he wasn't the champ, he's coming out first. We should still do it that way. So it was interesting too, though, at the first part of this match, Doug. Again, I want to walk through this one since it was so much to unpack in this. It started to seem, I was worried that, the fans are going to hijack this one, because the fans didn't seem to want either of these women. They were not. We had a "We Want Becky" chant. Yes, absolutely. Something you didn't have to worry about during the pandemic because you controlled all that stuff. And obviously, Becky's been rumored for a while to be close to return. She did not. No spoilers here. She was not involved in this. And it was also interesting that when the crowd was starting to crap on the match at the start, Charlotte decided to give them the bird, and either WWE and or Peacock decided they were going to try to censor this, which was, to me, very, come on, folks, you know, half the money you all are still living on is because of having, you know, Stone Cold's middle finger on your TV every single week.
Yes.
And so what the heck? I mean, you know, you had Bobby Lashley, you know, dropping, you know, BS on cable television on Monday night, and you even replayed it, so you're using language you normally don't use, and you can't show middle finger. It seems, I don't know, a little, I don't know, hypocritical or just pick and choose, but very odd. Um, there was a vicious German suplex near the start that Rhea, you know, being as big as she is, taking someone that you normally don't see throw around like that, like a Charlotte Flair, put her on the back of her neck. Uh, there was a lot of counters and, you know, suplex counters and pin reversals and back and forth. And it started slow, so you kind of knew that they were probably going to build to something. But, you know, I thought that the natural selection from the top rope, that was a spot that I thought could have been the finish. It wasn't. And then Charlotte did an amazing job of selling frustration that she just can't put the young champ away. And then that knee injury to the outside, and being the veteran that she is, she seizes on it, capitalizes, in a match that, Doug, honestly, I think you and I both thought we were getting last month. To me, this was the epic encounter that we thought we would see at the last pay-per-view. This was everything that match wasn't. I would put this as one of the best matches I've seen this year.
My single complaint about this match is the match last month. Ripley got herself disqualified by hitting Charlotte with the thing on the announce table. Yet Charlotte doesn't get the same DQ for mangling Rhea Ripley's knee with the steps. One of those seems a lot more severe than the other.
True, very true.
However, you know, I'm willing to let it pass because my God, it was great. And I think, you know, just the move where Charlotte reverses a riptide into a DDT was beautiful.
Yes, very nice. And David, you are correct. I mean, things these days move so much faster than they did back in the day, as far as instead of an hour of TV where you see these folks, you see them 6, 7 hours a week. And so they churn through championship reigns and opponents and feuds a whole lot faster. At the same time, to my surprise, I found out this was, you know, because WWE, I guess, put it out on their socials that this is the first time in 5 years that Charlotte has actually held the Raw Women's Championship. So there is something where Charlotte seems like, you know, she's always the champ or always on top, but it's also easy to forget that she's actually been around a little longer than you think when you start to look at, you know, what is it, probably now like 7, 8 years on the scene, which is, you know, a lifetime in today's, you know,
Yeah, it is.
modern WWE. This is unfortunately where Peacock decided that they were going to start screwing us all.
Yep.
Folks, we got a show coming up in 3 weeks. In fact, when we're back on our regular time, you know, table where we're doing topics at 8 o'clock on Sunday nights. But the second show in August is actually going to be our 6-month review of Peacock, because Peacock said that at the 6-month part, by the time we got to SummerSlam, that they would have pretty much all the features and all the content that you were used to on your old WWE network. It was going to, if you give them a little time, they were going to get back to that by SummerSlam. SummerSlam's our next pay-per-view, so be sure to tune in for our show, because you know, if tonight was any indication as to some of the things we're going to be talking about, they're not quite there yet with what they promised.
They can't even keep one show on for an entire night right now.
So yes, definitely tune in for that. But yes, I switched to my phone thinking maybe it was, you know, my Wi-Fi. It wasn't. It was messing up on my phone too. So I went back to the Fire Stick. I went on Twitter and saw that everybody else was having the same issue. So unfortunately, the next match is the men's ladder match, and it was what we ended up seeing of it. Fantastic. But this will be a match that I'm going to go back and watch just to get the full feel for it, because what was there was incredible. It was Seth Rollins. Yeah, throw that up there.
Yes, they are. Indeed,
Nice.
they are.
Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, KO, Riddle, King Nakamura, Ricochet, Morrison, and your eventual winner, as called by you, Doug, is called by David. You know, David, friend of the show, and watching tonight. Big E did walk away with this one. Ricochet did what we thought Ricochet would do, and unfortunately, part of what he did was during the choppy bits where you could just sort of see that he was flying around like a madman. And
Like an actual superhero. Let's
Yeah,
anybody needs a superhero gimmick. It's Ricochet.
that was they very much because Ricochet is a star, and the crowd tonight again. There's your focus group, Vince. They treated him like a star. They were hot for everything he did. The ladder that he was on that tipped over, and then he caught himself on the top rope, then propelled himself into a senton moonsault flip into the outside crowd waiting on him out there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is true superhero work that only Ricochet could do.
Or
And
maybe Ray Phoenix.
well, in WWE, yes. But yeah, the crowd was hot for him. Riddle continued with his Randy Orton bromance going there, just
Yeah,
throwing
yeah.
RKOs everywhere. There was a really nice martial arts sequence though between him and Nakamura that looked really cool. Drew McIntyre, of course, is a main eventer, former champion, was kind of a non-factor in this one in that Jinder Mahal and his lackeys sort of took Drew out of the contest early. Doug, I don't know if you saw the promo that Drew cut before this match, but it had to be a little disappointing for Drew because there was a pretty mixed reaction from the crowd to him, including some heavy boos. And I don't know if that's an indication of that fans were, tired of seeing him near the world title spot and had been there against Lashley so long they didn't want to see him win this, but they were booing him before he got out there. And that had to be a little hurtful since the poor man has a great story and never got to really bask in the crowd's reaction.
Well, for at least for the fans there in Texas, they need not worry about Drew since he was kidnapped during the ladder match. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, I said that he was taken out by his lackeys. I should have said really taken out, like literally carried out of the match, non-factor at all, which had to be a little disappointing for him as well after getting booed earlier. But it definitely wasn't the Drew show. It was a nasty looking bump. We should make sure we point out for Kevin Owens that fall he took out of the ring off the top and then through a suspended ladder looked like it really got him bad on the back of the neck. Looked very nasty. But in the end, Big E, the look on his face alone was just
Yes.
worth it. I mean, that was one of those special moments where hopefully this is something big for him now. Who do you see? Obviously, we got SummerSlam to get through, Doug, because there's those opponents seem to be already lined up for the world titles. So Big E may tease this one for a while, but who do you right now see him more likely to cash in against?
You know what? I'm really wondering about that. Had things been placed differently, it would have been great to have a tease at the end of the Kofi Bobby Lashley match. If nothing else, almost you don't pull the trigger on it, but you tease it. The Big E, avenging his New Day brother who's just fallen to Lashley, but. Still think Big E cashes in against Lashley. That's what I'm thinking too. Just not yet. I mean, I think it would have been great tonight to tease that a little bit, but having the matches placed differently. But I mean, we got what we got. So,
well, there's several ways you can look at this moving forward because not only is Big E a good potential placeholder right now to just keep like threatening, say Reigns over on SmackDown, but until we get past SummerSlam, you get to SummerSlam, you're in late August, you get to September, it would be about 1 year since the last draft. So there's a good chance that someone like a Big E gets reunited with the New Day over on Raw, and he gets moved over at that point in time, even though the briefcase itself would allow him to go over there if he so chooses. But again, we're presuming that these guys are going to still be champions after SummerSlam.
well, that's what I was going to say. Giving the return at the end, and no spoilers just yet, but we know where Reigns is and spoilers, we know where Reigns is heading towards at SummerSlam, but maybe Big E cashes in at SummerSlam.
Which would be one way to salvage what, in both instances, are likely to be world title challengers who are not going to be permanent full time returnees to the roster.
Exactly.
Which fans tend to not care so much for. So that could be, reminiscent of Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in Bank at WrestleMania on a Lesnar.
Oh, I'm having some technical difficulties. Hold on.
Doug, stop peacocking on us.
I need to plug up or you're going to lose me soon. Okay, there we go.
Don't worry, Doug. It still looks more professional than what Peacock was doing in that second hour.
Right. It's like our show should be on Peacock, as many technical difficulties as we have.
It does now, though, Doug, take us to our main event of the night, and that is the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns retains, as most of the world thought he would, against Edge. This had a very big match feel at the start, and also a bit of a split crowd. And this makes me think that, and we've talked about this before, I think on air, but definitely we've talked about it personally as well, that at some point they're going to have a hard time keeping Reigns heel. Here was a guy that when he was a face, they couldn't get anyone to cheer. And now that they have fans back, and we all are so appreciative of how good he's done the character, there is a contingent already starting, you can see, that want to cheer him.
Mm-hmm. Because he is just that good. I think my two favorite storylines in wrestling right now are this tribal chief and in WWE you have the tribal chief, and in AEW you have the Kenny Omega Hangman Page that's been brewing for a year now. We're talking WWE tonight, and it's just a great story. I mean, it's just a great character. And when he finally does turn heel, not going to happen anytime soon, considering what he's looking for at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this was and Edge, the facial expressions. I don't know if there's anybody better at Edge with the facial expressions in professional wrestling, past, present, or maybe even future. This man just has amazing facial expressions, and those eyes just pop out in the shock and awe.
No one actually gave Edge any chance at this. So we knew going in that there wasn't going to be a title change tonight, and they still managed to put on a good show for the last match. They had introductions around the 10:30 mark, and they started so slow you could tell that this was going to be going long.
Mm-hmm.
That they were building for an epic. To be honest, I liked the match. I don't know that it got to that next gear that it possibly could have gotten to. And maybe it was a bit too long or a little bit too methodical at the beginning. It definitely picked up, but it wasn't the match stiller. I actually thought that the women's match with Charlotte and Rhea was better, and that the men's ladder match appeared to be better also. But I did like the spear into the guillotine. They had a lot of really effective counters that played into their strengths. As you said, Edge with his facial expressions, and Roman utilizing his power and size advantage as a man that size legitimately would in such a contest. What I cared less for, and maybe this also kind of took it down for me, not getting to the gear that I thought it was heading towards with this epic length, is once we started with the ref bumps. That's when you start with the, all the foolishness that kind of, to me, detracts from things. It did allow for Roman to you go get the steel bar out of the chair to sort of get revenge and pay back Edge for what he's been doing. That starts to play into the finish when Edge gets a hold of that thing and gets that visual one more time. There was some vicious headbutts in that sequence where Edge just looked like his life depended on it at that point in time, and he was just going to try to knock Roman out with just his forehead. But you get the Usos involved, you get the Mysterios involved, you get Seth Rollins involved, and that, to me, all of that starts to take it down a little bit as far as getting into 4 or 5 star territory. I thought it was over when Seth attacked Edge. and also thought that could mean that, oh, well, I guess we're, Seth wants next, so we're probably going to maybe we're going to instead get the former tag team stablemates here, Roman and Seth at SummerSlam, but that was not the direction we go in. Edge loses. It took a second appearance by Seth for him to actually stay down, which gave Edge a hope spot as well as a visual pinfall and a second referee, and again shenanigans. But Roman Reigns, as he should have, keeps moving on with the championship. And I'm guessing that means probably that we're looking, instead of Seth, I have next, we're looking Seth and Edge for SummerSlam.
Certainly looks that way since they fought into the crowd, post match. So, even though Seth had a breakdown earlier in the night and said, was ranting about whoever wins, he is jumping to the head of the line. And then I think he was going to engage in some banter, some witty anime villain banter like he does with the tribal chief there until, Edge, had to come back there and and took off, into the crowd with him, which then I thought it was odd that Reigns then asked for a mic. So it was like, well, where's this going?
Yeah. Well, as far as where it's going with the two guys who aren't going to be involved in the main event of SummerSlam, if you're just talking building interesting undercards, Seth needing someplace else to go, and Edge needing someplace else to go, the two of them working together, their sizes, their styles, I'm all for that. I think that would be a great feud coming out of tonight's, not the feud that's everyone's going to be talking about because it's not the SummerSlam main event. But as far as an undercard match goes, you're talking about a potential scene stiller between Edge and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. So I hope they continue that.
Yes, you are. But then, Kevin, we had a return, which I did not expect. I could see him tonight, but I didn't expect it. I would have expected it on SmackDown, with maybe some advertising ahead of time. But we got it tonight instead, so we'll get advertising for the entire week.
Yeah,
to drive those numbers to Fox on Friday night. But the man, the myth, the legend, John Cena has returned.
And returned, I guess, at the appropriate time, like right when, again, you have that goodwill of people being happy to see things again. Cena being away maybe long enough that people are happy to see him again, because when was the last time John Cena entered a WWE ring that he wasn't booed like the villain? The crowd blew the roof off the place cheering for John Cena. So if you're going to get a face John Cena versus heel Roman Reigns match, you better do it quickly before those roles reverse and people go back into the, as we said, they're starting to cheer Roman a little bit, and fans have traditionally not cared so much for Cena. So definitely do it now while you get the reactions that you're wanting.
Yep, I love the reactions. I love the reaction shots they did the crowd and hitting all like the little kids in the crowd that were just so super excited to see Cena.
I have to say it was probably the first time that I can remember actually being excited to see John Cena too. I mean, I legitimately had that, like, he's certainly not my favorite. I think sometimes he doesn't get enough credit. Sometimes it's just cooler to dislike him than to, appreciate the things he does well. But it had been long enough that I'm thinking, you're looking at a kind of a mirror image of one another. You're talking about like the biggest superstar of the last 10 years that the crowd would not accept the way that the Office wanted him to, and then the guy that was to pick up that mantle and had the exact same problem. They never went heel with Cena, even though fans had called for that for a while. They finally did with Roman, and it's working like gangbusters. I'm thinking that this is a match I'm interested in.
Yep. Would you I'm looking at Cena, and did Cena look a little smaller to you, like when Rock went away and didn't have to be, as big as since he's not a full-time wrestler, kind of leaner, not necessarily. He's still a beast, clearly, but a little bit leaner than I remember Cena.
No, Doug, I agree. I think you could take him.
It's on. Right after SummerSlam, I'm cashing in.
Would you have ever thought that either of these bros sitting here talking on this show would have been excited about a SummerSlam main event between Roman Reigns and John freaking Cena?
No, man.
Put this in the time
No.
capsule and take it back and show us 5 years ago that we would be saying, we were excited John Cena returned and he's going to take on Roman Reigns in the main event.
And it's
It's
going
going
to
to
be
be great. I know, wrestling, right?
great. Right, exactly. Wrestling.
That's where we're headed. Road to SummerSlam. Tonight's Money in the Bank set the table very well as far as future feuds. It wrapped up a few things. It's planted the seeds for some next things. And right now, SummerSlam, especially with that goodwill of the audience and the Raws and SmackDown that are also going to benefit from these audiences on the build to SummerSlam, looking pretty good.
Yeah, it is. But this
So
old man is tired.
there's a lot of old men and women out there watching our show probably are. And speaking of tired, we're giving you a break next week, folks. Thank you for joining us for tonight. We're on a little bit of a summer break next week. We're going to take off the 25th. We'll be back on August 1st. So that's 2 Sundays from tonight at our regular time, 8 o'clock. Doug, our topic for that night is one that I think everyone should be interested in. It's where's Keith Lee? Keith Lee has had a very interesting year. This he actually tweeted out over the weekend. This makes 3 years. This weekend marked 3 years since he signed with WWE. He's not been on your TVs this year. All the folks that have come and gone in the layoffs, he was not one of them. Yet he's not utilized. He's not hurt either. So we are going to look into the mysterious case of Keith Lee, the cautionary tale of how everything could be going so right and then suddenly so wrong. So that should be one that everyone hopefully will join us for on August the 1st when we return.
Excellent. So we're going to go look for Keith Lee next week.
That's why we're off.
All right. I'm Slap Happy. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for joining.
Oh, in broadcast. There we go.